Praise. Okay. If you need to join the Discord, here it is. We'll just leave that up for a bit. And then if you want to submit questions live, we will do that. Okay, so we threw out a question form like a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and y'all turned in 42 questions. 44 questions. There's about zero chance, David Wickman, don't be trying to ask questions right now. There's about zero chance that we're going to be answering 44 questions tonight, but Maribeth went through all of your questions, and so did I, and she grouped them together. And
because they're kind of themed.
There's themes, and we've got them grouped into like how many?
17.
17. We reduced your 44 into 17. And so what we'll do tonight is we'll just begin to walk through them. We kind of put them in an order that makes sense. And so it builds on itself. We're going to talk about all sorts of things tonight because you guys asked a bunch of awesome questions. I don't know, is there anything we can do about the flashy? I'm having a psychedelic experience. I want to say this. So Maribeth and I have been married this year. It's 31 years. It'll be 32 years in November. 32 years. Yeah. And so I would just say this. I was thinking about this in worship. The reason why we feel confident in being able to answer questions on marriages is not because our relationships, is not because our marriage has been perfect. It's been anything but perfect. We've had many challenges and difficulties and trials. And the point I would say is because we have learned through making mistakes, coming back and fixing it, coming back, refixing it, all that stuff where we've had to humble ourselves 1,000 times each. That's what I think qualifies us to be able to answer questions because we got a lot of don't do it the wrong way in a lot of areas. And so I was just thinking about that. So we're not sitting up here as the marriage gurus or the relationship gurus, but we've been through a lot, and we've got, like 30 years of pastoral experience. I've probably officiated somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 weddings, and so we've done premarital counseling with like 50 couples, and then tons of other marriage counseling. So we've got a lot of experience under our belt. We've got a lot of marriage experience under our belt. There's an engaged couple that we will be doing counseling with here in a minute. And anyway, so we're coming from there, but we're also coming from this place of like, hey, we don't have it all down. We've learned a lot. We're doing our best. So, cool. With that.
Right, ready to get started?
Yeah, flip to you.
Okay. So the first theme is there the one? Or is it covenant-based?
I said he's sitting right here.
Oh.
No, I'm just saying.
The question is, the theme is there the one? So someone wanted to know, is there the one, or is it more covenant-based? And do you just make a covenant with someone and there you're one? Someone also asked, did I find the one, or should I settle and grow closer to God through all of it?
Wait, did I find the one, or do I wait to find the one, or should I settle and grow close to God in that?
Yeah. So, I'll go ahead and...
If it ain't the one, it's number 2, and you don't want that.
I just want you to think of...
all that.
Isaac and Rebekah in the Bible, and Isaac's servant went and found Rebekah, and it was like led of the Lord. And pretty much it comes off like Rebekah is the one for Isaac. But then his son, Jacob, went and wanted to marry Rachel. He wanted to marry Rachel. He really wanted to marry Rachel. And he ended up marrying Leah and Rachel later. And it didn't have the one feel because he's married too.
It was the two.
Yeah. But I just thought of that. But I also wanted y'all to see Elizabeth Elliot. So this is Elizabeth Elliot. Do y'all know her? Okay, Elizabeth Elliot. She wrote this book called Passion and Purity. This was her husband, Jim, who was a missionary to the Auca Indians in Ecuador, and he was killed. They had like a totally same vision, and it felt like, their marriage is like so perfect because they're doing this together. They're going to minister in Ecuador, and he died.
He got martyred.
He got martyred.
Speared to death.
And then they had a daughter, and so Elizabeth was a single parent for many years, but then she got married again to, that's her third husband, actually, to this guy. So then she married him, and it was wonderful. I haven't read all her stories, but then he died of cancer. And then she married the third one. And so I wouldn't say that there was one for her. I told you guys my story, and I think that there can be someone that the Lord has for you. But I also think that he leaves it up to you. I don't think it's the same for everybody.
So you think like it's just wide open?
I think sometimes the Lord, I cannot get away from my own experience. So I'm sorry for that's my answer. Because it's not like in the Bible that the Lord is going to tell you who you're going to marry. But I heard him say that you were my husband. I did.
You mean Jesus called me the one?
Okay. I just want you guys to know that I did not tell him any of this. I did not be like, hey, the Lord told me this, until
the Lord told me you're my husband.
Later.
That's how she introduced
way
herself.
Later.
Okay, I would say this, and I think that is true. Your experience is pretty specific in that regard, but I do think there's openness. Okay, can I give a thought, like a broad thought?
You can.
Clearly, Elizabeth Elliot had 3 husbands, and it seems like each of them were godly people. She was a godly woman, stayed godly. And if there was the concept of the one, if there's only one, then if only one is possible, then remarriage would be impossible. And I think that's the point you're making, right? So I think of this. How many people, I'm going to use a sports example, but it's not going to be about sports rules. It's just going to be about a team. So how many people are familiar with football? How many people are familiar with international football, soccer? Okay? Or basketball? Do we have basketball people? How many people would honestly say, I have no clue about any sports at all? Okay, a few. Okay. Well, I'm going to give an example and just Google it later. Okay, so on a team, every year teams add new players, and they might add new players on the basis of what the needs of the team are. So if it's a basketball team, they might need a shooting guard. If it's a football team, they might need a quarterback. If it's a soccer team, they might need a left backer. Left back. I am not a soccer person. They need a left back. So they don't need a right back, or the football team doesn't need a tight end. There might be awesome other players that fit other positions, but the team needs somebody for that specific role. And because that role has certain gifts, talents, abilities, like a lineman in football is different than a running back. Now, both of them are athletes, but that team really needs a running back, not a 300-pound dude to be back there blocking people. And my point is this, that I don't think it's just wide open, pick whosoever. I think there's somebody that fits the position of your spouse. And I think it's a narrow set of, specifics. But within that set of specifics, I don't think it's just one, but God knows what you need.
He knows what you need better than you.
He knows what you need. And so you might be looking at a left tackle, but you need a free safety. Okay? And the Lord is going to tell you that left tackle is not for you. And I think that what you need is you probably need a free safety, and there might be 3 free safeties out there that, the Lord, that could work in this season for you. But it really is a free safety and not a left tackle. Does that make sense? So I don't think it's the one, but I think it's a narrow group that works the best for us.
Very good. All right. Second question. The theme of there's a bunch of questions on this one, is differences in spiritual level, okay? Like if you're dating someone who is lukewarm, who's newly saved, or if you have doctrinal differences from the person that you're interested in. Yeah.
So let's start with missionary dating. Are you booing me or the question, or booing missionary dating? So missionary dating is you meet somebody who doesn't know the Lord, but so they need to know Jesus. So you are going to be a missionary to win them to Jesus. Okay. I'm getting a little insecure the way y'all are booing this. Anyway, the point is, I think we all understand that the Bible tells us not to be unequally yoked, right? So if there's an unbeliever and you are a believer, you can't get into a romantic relationship hoping that somehow you're going to win them to the Lord. That's not it. That ain't going to work. That is probably going to end up in real bad shipwreck on a number of potential problems. Some of you are bearing witness because you've tried this. So I would say save yourself the hardship. And if the boy or girl is super cute, okay, I get that. And talk to them about Jesus first. All right, so let's see if they'll get born again. And then let's see if maybe they are your left tackle. Praise God. All right. So, but let's not think we can get into a relationship with somebody, get emotionally intertwined and all connected relationally, committed exclusive romantic relationship, and think that we're going to be a missionary in their life to bring them to Jesus. That ain't gonna be it.
The primary way that you connect with someone is over your spirituality and Jesus. So if they don't have that, what are you connecting over, really?
Okay, so what about people that have you got the more mature believer and the less mature believer. What would you say to that?
I think it's...
Because she's cute and all that. That's what the guy's thinking. Yeah. She's really cute. Mm-hmm. Or she's thinking, he's really cute.
Yeah, you cannot base your relationship on cute, okay?
Hey. If he doesn't know the difference between an epistle and an apostle, what do we do with that?
He can learn, but he's not as your boyfriend, no. I think it's a bonus, and it's sweet when people are on the same plane. That's beautiful. I think that is something to look for, but I don't know that it's mandated by the Lord that it has to be exactly equal. I have seen some relationships work, but it's a lot of work. But I think that you want someone who's on your level.
There's a couple things. One, they've got to be passionate for Jesus as you are passionate for Jesus. It doesn't mean that they are going to be as mature as you per se, but if both people are passionate for Jesus, then we're in good shape, right? And then I would say also convictions. Having the same convictions is really, really important. If you've got different convictions, it's going to be hard to reconcile. So I would say same passion, same convictions, and then so much spiritual maturity isn't the biggest issue. So I think it's important to be at least equally yoked in Christ and equally passionate with the same convictions.
Yeah. We had so much of the same conviction that we didn't even know. Like, we were like, we're not going to do Santa Claus with our kids. Like, we didn't talk about that when we were 21.
Santa Claus is a fraud.
But there's all kind of stuff like that we're just so in agreement on. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, we didn't have to figure out like 10 different things. We thought the same on so many of the little areas of conviction. So it's cool.
All right. The next thing is about leadership in relationships. Is it okay if a woman initiates in a relationship, like asking the dude out? How to know if a guy's interested, or is he just being kind and friendly? What does it look like for a man to lead a woman? Are women with strong personalities intimidating to men?
Oh my gosh, oh my God. Okay, I'll start. It is my 99.99999% preference that the man would pursue the woman. That is my preference. And as I said a few weeks ago, dudes need to begin to become men again and be able, and I'm not saying macho or toxic masculinity, I'm just saying to be able to initiate. Initiating as a man isn't a personality type. It's about understanding your identity as a son and as a man and taking a place of leadership in initiating. I think that's really, really healthy and really, really good. I said 99.9999 because sometimes dudes are a little bit dull. So I am also in favor of a nudge, not a grab, a nudge. Just so that if a young woman is interested, that it is a little bit of a nudge just so that the guy can actually like, whoa, wait a minute, what? So I'll tell our example.
Go tell it.
So in our example, we became very good friends. I was in college at the University of Georgia. I'd just gotten saved. I was right out of like all sorts of worldly stuff. And I'd gotten saved. I'd been like a year or something, maybe a year and a half saved. And but I was on fire for the Lord. I was out on the campus preaching the gospel, reading the Bible every day. I mean, I was just going hard after Jesus.
Going crazy for Jesus.
And so I had made a decision, though, that I wasn't going to date because basically everything that I ever did that got me in trouble involved drugs, alcohol, and girls. So I just said, okay, let me just take those off the table, and I'll stay out of about like 98% of the sin. So I was not dating. So I had like 4 Christian friends, and then my 4 Christian friends, they were all dudes, and they introduced me to a girl that was in their youth group. And that was my 5th Christian friend, basically. It was like I've got 5 Christian friends. Well, she lived in another state, and so back in the day, we didn't have text messages. We didn't have smartphones. We had 25-centimeter long distance, and we had letters.
I think that might be why the Lord struck me like he did, because I was about to go back to my state, and I would have forgot him.
What, wait.
Okay, that's it. the Lord had to be like,
wait, I just need to rethink my whole life for a minute. Okay, I'm back. She says she would have forgot me.
I wasn't trying to hook up with somebody in Georgia.
You just blew up the whole Q&A, babe. I'll be working through my insecurity right now for the next hour in front of everybody. All right, so here's what happened. So I'll just give a little backstory on me. So growing up, I have a cousin, a female cousin who's my age, who I was pen pals with for like 5 years. So I wrote letters, and we would just keep in touch as friends that way. We were pen pals. So Maribeth writes a letter after we met, and I responded. I promise I wasn't trying to play. I didn't have a game going on. I just responded because that was normal to me. It was what I knew. You just respond as a friend.
I wrote a letter to Billy and his roommates.
So when she got my response and no one else's response, what happened?
I thought it was on. I was like, the Lord is doing this.
My understanding of it is you had the letter in your hand and you...
I screamed.
And ran around their apartment.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to forget me now. So, anyway. So we had this pen pal friendship, and then occasionally we would have a phone call. We would have like a phone call every occasional. And then, but we were sharing letters.
A little bit regular.
Yes, but so we were sharing letters regularly, and it's y'all don't know the fun of that, because getting a piece of mail that's handwritten and addressed is super cool. It's so cool, and so that's what I was thinking. Like, this girl loves Jesus. I love Jesus. We're talking about Jesus in these letters. This is great. So, fast forward 5 months, she's gonna come visit, and so we're having a phone call because she's getting ready to visit. We're just talking through things, and I'm thinking she's like become like a really good friend. Maybe she's like a best friend. And by the way, I don't believe in best friends that are opposite sex, because one of them isn't trying to just be a best friend. I don't know which one, but one of them isn't. So anyway, we're on the phone. We're working out the details. She's going to come visit. She's got a ride. She's got a place to stay. We're going to hang out. She's a really good friend. And I throw this out there because I'm realizing it's against my plan. I don't date, but this is getting date-ish. This is getting very date-ish. And I say, and now I am playing. Now I am playing. And I say, you know, it'd be interesting if you moved down here and became a part of the church. I was part of this beginning church plant. And I said, it'd be cool to find out, you know, if you came down here, if we would be really, really close friends, or if maybe we would get running and gunning and doing all sorts of stuff and hardly see each other. So I just said it like that. And she goes, I'll never forget it. So this sweet thing, she goes, what do you think this is? That is a nudge. That's a nudge. That was a bit of a shoulder smash nudge. But it was actually, the nudge was probably the letter. The nudge was the letter. But that was a DTR. She hit me with a full-blown elbow smash DTR. I go, what do you mean? She goes, I don't just talk to boys on the phone and write letters. What do you think's going on? And then she said this sentence. I mean, now she's just swinging. She goes, am I not special to you? So the nudge was the letter. The DTR is important. And I said, yes. And I hear the Holy Spirit speak to me right then. And he basically says, I'm giving you grace in this relationship. Don't frustrate my grace. Because I was so locked on, legalistically locked on, like I am not dating. And when I heard the Lord say that, I said, okay, no, yes, you're special. I'm not writing letters with other girls. Yes. And yes, I really am looking forward to you coming. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to be dating this girl. Oh my gosh. Then she came down, and then we started our relationship. But the nudge was the letter, and then the DTR was the elbow smash. What do you think this is? Am I not special to you? I don't know. We're off in the weeds, but
Do women with strong personalities intimidate men?
if they're intimidatable. I'd say if the man is intimidatable.
Oh.
Yeah, a strong personality. I mean, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, there's 9 personality types. Several of those are really strong. If you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs, there's a variety of different personality types. Several of those are very strong. We're very international in our experience here. There's a big cultural mix. There's definite differences in cultures and how people relate. And so it's really not about, are you too strong as a woman? I think it's about, man, are you confident in your identity?
Wow.
And if the guy's confident, then I think there can be a real easy, way that people can work together. But and I think though, at the end of the day, this goes for guys and girls. If you're strong in your personality, you probably are going to have to learn gentleness. That's part of your growth curve, is not to just be strong and show out about how strong you are. And I mean, my wife there's an evident, in our expression, in our personality, there's an evident power imbalance. I am way more intense, way more vocal, way more like out there. And my wife is way more understated, way more gentle, way more calm and peaceful. So for me, this has been a 31-year journey of figuring out how to get, gentle. How to bring my power down so I can meet her and help her to get up, so that we can have an equivalency. So I would just say, if you're strong, period, boy or girl, that you're still going to have to learn how to be gentle. But I would say for dudes, like if you're all intimidated by strong women, we need to get you a little stronger in your identity as a man and as an image bearer, a son of God, so that doesn't overwhelm you.
Good. Yes. Are there any cues that guys give to show that they're interested and not just being friendly?
What do you think? Say your stuff.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know that one.
I think that when somebody is open relationally, guy or girl, there are cues you can notice. And I think one of the most simple things is, are they acting different toward you than they act toward other people? All right? And let me just say this. Let me just be really clear. This is a way people get hurt. So if you are acting differently towards somebody, if you're, acting differently towards a person of the opposite sex, I think that's the most key. You are sending them you're sending them a signal that they are special to you. And when you're sending that signal, they're gonna believe, oh, there's something potentially happening here. And if then when there's a question about the relationship, like, so am I special to you? And if that's like, oh no, I'm not acting, special with you for any reason except for I just want to be friends. I want to put you in the bro zone or whatever that is. Like that's not managing somebody else's heart well. So if you're treating that person differently, more attentively, more focused with them than you are with other people, you're giving them a signal. Okay? So I think there's the both and of that. Yes, that's probably a signal that there could be interest, but that also could be someone who's not tending someone else's heart very well.
That's good. All right. Spiritual boundaries. should people share all their thoughts with the person they're dating? And people have been
I
advised.
love how y'all are like shouting each other's questions. No, dummy! Be stupid!
I do know of someone who asked a question that they knew the answer to, but they just asked it just to put it out there. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, keep that in mind. So people have been told not to be too vulnerable and not to pray together when they're dating, so that they wouldn't be.
Not to pray together. There is a teaching that says don't pray together because it builds intimacy, and you won't be able to like stop the momentum when it comes to like physical boundaries. That's the teaching. So some people have heard that.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I think that in the very beginning, if you're in that stage where you're just getting to know them, you don't share everything. But when it's obvious that the Lord is doing something, then you have to share to get to know someone, or you're not really going to know them. And I think prayer is pure and bonding. And if you're trying to bond with someone with the Lord, praying together is good. Yeah.
I think the key also is like you want to pace how much you're divulging about yourself. You know, if you're just new in a relationship, you don't want to tell them all the deepest things of your heart. You know, you want to share, you know, who you are and what you like and what you're interested in. You want to be curious and ask questions. But, you know, out the gate in the first month or something, you're not like telling all the deep drippings that's on the inside of there. I would really wait till you're further along in a relationship till you're disclosing at an extremely intimate level. You know, I would really wait until there's a sense of commitment that this thing is going longer term, because I've seen that happen so many times. People share like real deeply, and then they don't stay in the relationship, and sometimes that ends up adversarial and negative. And now they've got somebody that they're not close to anymore that knows all their personal stuff. Yeah, and that ends up being something that can be really deeply negative. So I would say you want to pace yourself in that.
Yeah, pace. That's great. All right, so.
How many are we in? Are we 3 in?
4.
4.
How do you know that this person is for you? Somebody said, "Who is my wife?" Is there no confirmation because I'm not listening, or is this not God's will? Should we hear from the Lord before we date? Yes, we should.
Wait, before the coffee date or before the...
Before the commitment. Before the commitment.
Mutually exclusive romantic commitment.
Yes, yes.
So you can go on a coffee date without an angel telling you to go on a coffee date. Okay.
That's right. It takes maturity to do that. And some people are not capable of going on an innocent get-to-know-you coffee date because their heart will be invested. I know that if somebody asked me to coffee, and
who's asking?
No, like I'm talking about like 18-year-old me.
Okay.
16, whatever.
Oh, okay.
22. I was married, but anyway, if someone had asked young me to go to coffee, and I hadn't thought about them, then maybe I could do it. But if I had been thinking about them, that makes a big difference, because I'm like, yeah, and I want you. And this is coffee, you know, it can be tricky. But I think a mature person...
Are you saying that's an immature state?
Yes.
If that's your experience, So if that's your experience, you're saying that's an immature state.
Yes, a mature person would be able to go to coffee and know that they're just trying to get to know people.
Gotcha.
And not just invest their heart immediately.
And so you're saying that there should be some sort of thing where you're at least measuring your own soul, like, can I go to coffee and this isn't going to stir me up in a way that's beyond what's manageable?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So how do you know? How do you know if this person that you're getting to know is someone you want to go farther with? A big question that I would ask is, what is your life vision? Does this person want to go live in the jungle, but you have a heart for New York City? Like, some stuff just does not mix. And so that's a key thing. And not everybody knows. Like, sometimes you're connecting spiritually and you don't have the plan. So I'm not just saying you have to know your life plan. But if you have those convictions that we were speaking of earlier, and you're connecting spiritually, and you feel like you're going together in God, that's where you start. And you also need to connect emotionally and deeply in friendship and fellowship. And it can't just be about you like the same sport, and it can't just be like you like the same music. There's got to be more depth, and that they reach you and they meet you when you have emotional thoughts. And I think you need to enjoy them and be attracted to them. Mm-hmm. You have anything else?
Yeah, I like all that. I like everything you just said. What was the question?
How do you know that the person is for you, basically?
How do you know they're the one? Oh. How do you know they are one of the ones? I think when it comes down to it, you have to have at least a witness in your heart from the Lord. I don't think you have to have a dream or an angel, but I think you've got to have a witness. Like, you feel pretty confident in God that this is a good person for you to move forward with. I think you got to have that. And I think that you got to have a witness. There was another thing I was going to say. It left me. It might come back.
Okay. So people have been in relationships and they felt deeply and connected and attached, but they had to come to this place where they have to move on. And how do they heal when they've been cheated on and they don't want that hurt to affect their future relationships? How do you forget your past loves? And how do you just remain friends if you're in the same church, or you're going to see them, and we're trying to go together, and if people were together but then they're not, how do you still go together in the body of Christ?
Go ahead, babe.
All right, I think, again,
this is an important question. This is a serious question. I feel the weight of that question. I know it's really, how do you recover?
Yeah.
How do you recover when you've been through a relationship that was close, but there was a breakup? So that's kind of the core question, and then there's different pieces of it, like what happens if you've been in a relationship that went beyond where it needed to go sexually or something of that nature. So there's a few different layers to this question, but the core question is, how do you recover when you've been close in relationship and you broke up? So
it takes maturity, again, mentioning maturity, to be able to see them as a brother or sister. And that really is what they are. If you have broken up, they are not special to you in that way, but they are a special brother and sister to all your friends and all the Christians around, and you have to get to that place with the Lord's help. It has to be the Lord, where you can receive them and just understand that there was a mistake. It was unfortunate, but mature people can move on in that way and just know that they can develop that love, that brotherly and sisterly love for that person.
I think honor is a key word. I think dignity is a key word. And I think in relationships, because it's so emotionally loaded, that people break from one another and they actually don't preserve the other person's honor and dignity. And I think that when I've seen it work, where people were together and then they had a break and then they stayed in, relationship, friendship, or in proximity in a church or whatever, there's always that's the one common denominator, is that they preserved the dignity of the other person and they honored the other person. And they did that through not talking a bunch of crap about them to their three friends.
Amen.
That's literally the way that the honor and dignity is preserved. So it doesn't mean that there weren't hurt feelings and that there weren't maybe dashed expectations. It's that instead of running the other person down and slandering them and ascribing a bunch of mean, intention to them, you actually just put that before the Lord. You work it out with them to try to get as much understanding. And some stuff you're just not going to get complete understanding on, but you position your heart where you're not going to dishonor that person. And if y'all find yourself in a relationship that doesn't work out, if you will position your heart not to dishonor them and to preserve their dignity by not talking crap about them to other people, you will be able to be in proximity with that person, for sure. But when you've told 4 friends about all their stuff, because you got close and then you broke up, and you've told their stuff, and you told what kind of an awful, horrible person they were, and now you've buoyed your position by getting 4 people against them, that's just dirty. I know you're hurt and you want to justify yourself in your hurt, and you want to make your heart feel better by getting all your friends on your team and all that. It's really dirty because you're dishonoring that other person and you are taking their dignity. So I think that when I've seen it work, I think that's it. So there's some work that has to get done in the Lord, emotional repentance, all that stuff. And then forgiveness, big time. And then the other thing I would just say is this: emotional romantic momentum is it's a really powerful momentum. And so to stop that emotional romantic momentum, it takes time. And it's like you can't stop a train on a dime. That's emotional romantic momentum. That thing, you can say, look, I've already said I'm not going to be with that person. I'm not going to do this, but my emotions are still carrying me a certain direction. Just give yourself some time. It will slow down and it will stop eventually. But you can't sit there and fixate on that person, like staring at their picture. Just why? Why don't you like me? Why? And like stalking their Insta and all this stuff. Like you don't do that. Just don't sit there and stalk them and stare at their picture and all this.
Ruminating.
That's going to feed the locomotive. Okay? You need to go ahead and give yourself a boundary, move on, and let that emotional momentum slow down and stop. And you position your heart before the Lord. There's 10 things you have to do to work that out, but generically, broadly, I think that's some helpful.
When to leave a relationship? Should we end it after sex happened? Can God restore the relationship? Does God heal broken relationships? That's very unfortunate that sex happened.
I would say unfortunate is a very kind way to say it. Go ahead. What are you going to say? My wife is going to, she's so gentle. Guys, don't have sex before you get married. It'll jack up your marriages. It'll jack up your relationships. It'll jack up your marriages. It's not in the Bible. It's called fornication. That's sin. Don't do it. Okay, there's that. So now if you did do it, Jesus loves you. The blood of Jesus is there. You totally get forgiven, totally cleansed, like for sure. Like for sure. There's no shame. Like he's going to completely set you free from that for sure. But hey, don't. So. And there's more to there's more the message about sex than don't do it. Like there's a ton about sex that I would love to have I think we should do an entire series on sex. That would probably be helpful.
And there's also a lot of stuff that can happen that is not sex that causes all that pain as well.
So try to answer that question. Like, do they have to break up if they fornicate? Does a couple have to break up?
For a time, I would say for a time. Yes, to get right. Because if you're having sex, you ain't right. So you have to get right with God. Yeah. And I do think God can restore.
Is there any nuance to that? Because she's a 1, so she's going to give you a black or white answer. Mm-hmm. Is there any nuance? So they're got to get married, they're engaged, and they're going to get married in 4 weeks. And they fall into sex, we have to call off the wedding? Or so somebody, yes. Talking about like the holiness church right now. Is there any nuance?
Yeah, there is nuance.
Okay. What could that look like?
Oh, gosh. I wanted you to answer this one.
You wanted me to answer that one? Okay. I think that when sex happens in a relationship prior to marriage, it's devastating. It's not ever redemptive and helpful. It's never helpful. It's devastating. The Bible actually says it wages war against your own soul. Sexual immorality wages war against your own soul. So it's devastating. There's 10 levels to this. And I can't do it in our time right now, but we should do it. And I'll go through it for you. But here's the point. Does that instantaneously mean that couple cannot be married? I would say the answer is no. That they could be married. They could be married. There needs to be real repentance, though. There really needs to be a departure from the sin and a valuing and an honoring of each other that is expressed through repentance, right? I think that it's subjective in how that works out in each situation. So the line is, don't fornicate, don't have sex before marriage. It's devastating. It's not the try it before you buy it plan. I don't care what the world says. I don't care what all the songs say. They're just really, really wrong. They're really wrong. And the reason why is, here's the thing. Can I give you guys just a 3-minute teaching on this? Okay. Husbands and wives being married it's a symbol of what? It's covenant, but it's a symbol of what? Say it, Sean. Us and Jesus. Us and Jesus, right? Okay. With us in Jesus, is there pleasure in his presence? What's Psalm 16 say? In his presence is what? Fullness. And at his right hand are pleasures evermore. Eternal pleasure and full joy. Okay, we're all big boys and girls in here, right? Physically speaking, would maybe orgasm kind of be a picture of pleasure and joy? I'm not saying having sex with God. Don't go there. My 13-year-old is on the front row going, what the heck? What? Here's my point. I won't make you fill the blanks in any further. In marriage, everything is a testimony of our relationship with God. Everything. Sex and the pleasure of sex is a testimony of our relationship with God. It's telling us naturally what eternal pleasures are going to be like with God. It's not sex with God, but it's pleasure and ecstasy and glory and beauty. Am I making sense? That is only for the redeemed. What humans have done have taken the most beautiful, pure, holy expression of ecstasy and pleasure, and they have debased it and made it something so animal. And that it now exists outside of marriage as normative, and it exists in pornified ways that I can watch people having sex on my phone in 10 seconds if I want. That is absolutely insane. Because what this is not something to be shamed about. Sex is beautiful. It's glorious. Every one of you is a testimony of somebody getting busy. We're all, hello. I know you hadn't thought about that real recently because nobody's trying to think about their parents having sex. But that's what humans are. It's not like God's trying to hide this thing. He's trying to put it in the right category. And sexuality is pleasurable, it's ecstatic, it's joyful, it's amazing. And it's for one narrow experience of a yoked couple in covenant that represents the covenant that we have with God and ourselves. That's the lane. And so I'm just getting all that in your minds about sexuality so you catch like, hey man, we're all sexual people because we're made in the image and likeness of God to experience pleasure. And that's okay, that's a good thing, that's not a bad thing. It's just that there's a lane for that to be expressed in, and that's inside of covenant. Does that make sense? So a lot of times the church's message has been, sex is bad, don't do sex. No, sex is awesome. Sex is great, but sex is for covenant. Because it mirrors the pleasure and the ecstasy we have with God when we're in covenant with Him.
Good.
I think we're on question number 5 now. We'll be doing questions and answers on marriage and sex for the next 17 weeks. No.
Qualities to look for in a future spouse.
You have some good qualities.
I would say.
What did you look for when you?
You want them to be teachable and willing to see their faults. You want them, like I was.
Why did you choose me then? Because I was not teachable when we were 20. It was grace. He was saying, "Don't frustrate my grace, son."
Yes.
Because I'm like making this answer for you, like I'm blinding her.
Well, what you did have was contentment in God, like I was talking about last week.
You said teachable, contentment in God.
Yes. Self-control. Like when all the kids are giving them crap, are they going to be mature? Are they going to yell? There's so many ways to be self-controlled in marriage. Are they going to be mature with listening and patience, work ethic? And are they going to honor? And I would look at how they treat their family. How do they treat their sister? How do they treat their own mother? How do they look at their dad? Are they selfless?
I like all that.
Yeah. All right.
You're saying character.
Character, yeah.
What's their character? I love that.
How 5 or
Discord.
5 of the most important things that we think that people should do in the relationship to grow closer to Jesus.
In their relationships.
Yeah.
Oh, this is your question.
Okay.
I told her, I said, delete that question. She goes, no, I got answers.
I think whoever asked this question is mature because they want to learn, like the details and
Whoever
the
you are,
nitty-gritty.
feel affirmed right now. Feel so affirmed. What a good question.
I think that you should exercise your selflessness muscle and do the hard thing. I think you should be meeting the other person's needs intentionally. I think you should serve them. And I just wanted to give a story. So we had a little situation. It was in the middle of the night. Saya came to our bedroom and he said, "There's poop all over our room."
The quote was, "Our room is full of poop."
Our room was full of poop. And
it was like 5 a.m. in the morning. We've been in a whole conference for like 3 days. And I'd been up till like midnight every single night at like 1 o'clock.
So tired. It was just like,
Dad, our room's full of poop.
The most tired you could be. We'd been just sleep deprived, and we were getting our sleep at that moment. And so he's at the door. Just poop all over our room. And this one right here, this dog, Brutus, he was the culprit of the poop because...
This is Chubb's predecessor.
Because someone had fed him carrots. So Saya fed him carrots.
Stuffed him full of like an entire like cluster of carrots.
And we had a babysitter because we had been at the conference, and the dogs are usually in their cage, but they were let loose in the room. I don't know how that happened, but he pooped all over the room. And so...
Like 50 times.
That's
on
the room.
The bed, on the sheets, on the floor. It was everywhere. That was the room.
Yeah. So there's poop all over this room. On the bed, there, right where those toy bins are, there's a bed. And so it was hard. That was hard. But we had to clean it. And I don't remember how it went. Do you?
I remember.
Yes, you can tell this.
So Saya's knocking on our door. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. Mom, Dad, our room's full of poop. I'm like, okay, buddy. Going back to sleep. Because I'm sure he's dreaming or something. Okay, man, go back to sleep. He goes, but it's full of poop. I know, man. Go on back to sleep. So I lay back down. I'm like, I got to sleep another 5 hours. This is minimum. And so I'm going back to sleep, and Maribeth goes, aren't you going to do something about that? I'm like, no. The room's not full of poop. He's dreaming. And so she goes, and she gets up.
It was a revival of that bad thing I was telling y'all about last week.
And she books out the room, and I'm thinking it's 10 seconds. She's gonna be back in the bed because Saya's been dreaming about poop or something. I don't know. And I hear her in the kids' room. She goes, "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!" And I'm like, "Oh no! What is this?" And get out of bed and go running in there, and she's like, "Oh." And she's like mad at me because I'm like going to sleep it off. And the dog has blown the whole room up. Anyway, we were up for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
Cleaning up dog poop everywhere.
Okay, so.
Diarrhea, carrot, dog poop. Just so you get it. Yeah.
Dude
now.
He wasn't used to eating carrots. So we had to serve our kids. We had to serve our house. We had to serve each other and clean that up. And life is full of rough stuff like that. And you show love when you do those hard things and you serve them. Yeah. And I'm not talking about opening up the car door. You don't even have to open up the car door because that was when they had we had power, everything. You just open up the car. And I mean,
that's what keyless entry's for.
Yeah. I mean, you can open up the door. But I'm just saying, it's not the same as it used to be. But all the ways that you can serve.
You're saying there's serving that's a lot more important than
than the romantic kind. Okay?
You can be chivalrous. On the real, though, I would have completely just put the boys in another room and slept it off for another 5 hours while the poop was just filling the whole room. And I would have attacked it later, probably, just on the real.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the right thing. I'm just saying that's what I probably would have done.
Yeah. That was
Guys,
an option.
all sleep in the toy room. Just go in there. We'll just put a police line on this door.
I would say.
Side note on the chivalry thing, because I felt like we got a little offensive in this area on that. I would just say, like, my wife walks in front of me everywhere we go. And I think that shows honor to her. And I think those kind of moves that men make, where I watch dudes to be walking 3 steps in front of their wife like he's the man and she's part of the harem or something. And I'm like, bro, whatever that is, you got to get that fixed.
He will be deplaning, and he will step aside and let me go first off the plane. It makes me feel very honored.
I can't cover her if I'm in front of her. I got your 6. I'm behind you.
It's good. Some other things to grow close to Jesus in relationship is to love your person the way that they receive love. Like if you love physical touch and you're trying to hug them all the time, but they want you to speak words of affirmation, but you never say anything, then they're not going to end up feeling as loved. They can be mature and see that you're trying, but to meet them and try to meet them is the way to go.
Most of the time,
So
we try to love people by our own love language.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm a physical touch. She's a acts of service. I'm like, you want me to do what? She's like, can you clean the house? I'm like, clean the house? Come over here and hug me. She's like, after you clean the house. I'm like, bro, that was just a rude awakening in marriage, like right there.
All right, we're getting to the end. Is marriage worth it? Yes. It outweighs all the hardships. In my mind, only be single if you're doing it specifically for Jesus. Not because you don't want to give up your preferences. Is age gap important? I would say if you're really young, like you have a 17-year-old and a 26-year-old, that would not be good. But you could throw up, this is Derek Prince. Anybody heard of Derek Prince? He's a Bible teacher. You can look him up and listen to his old teachings. He's really solid. This is his first wife. She was 25 years older than him. And then she died. So this is his second wife. She was 15 years younger than him. And they actually wrote a marriage book. That's just an example. You can take him down. But that's an extreme example. But
they're letting him linger.
But I think if you are bonded spiritually, then it doesn't have to matter as much.
But I think that, there's a certain age where the older you are, the gap isn't as serious.
Right, as you age.
And I think the older you get, the bigger the gap can be. But the younger you are, a significant gap there's a lot of difference.
Right.
Yeah. I'll tell you one of my worst faux pas my whole life. This guy had a wife that was older than him, like maybe at least 10, 15 years, but I think she actually aged quite significantly, and she looked way more older than him. And I was meeting him and his wife, but he didn't tell me that was his wife. And she came in, and he gave her a kiss, and I go, "Oh, is this your mom?" True story. There's no coming back from that. He goes, no, it's my wife. I go, oh, so nice to meet you. Bye.
Is marriage for everyone? No, obviously there are people who are called to be single. But I think that marriage shows so much of the Lord, and it gives you so much opportunity to grow closer to Jesus by being closer to someone in so many deep ways, and it just shows the Lord. And I think unless the Lord is calling you to be single, for sure, you should go for it. Should you have a prenuptial agreement? How do you handle finances? Is it okay for the wife to be the breadwinner? I think it's okay for the wife to be the breadwinner, but she's still not the leader.
No prenuptials.
Because your money is the same.
One bank account. Don't do separate bank accounts. The wife can absolutely be the breadwinner.
I actually made more money like for a couple years. Just how the ministry paid for a while.
Get this, she was a school teacher. I was a youth pastor. She was making more than me. That's a beat down. I was getting a beat down of a salary. When the first year school teacher's like balling compared to you.
No.
I was like, oh, we're going to be so rich now.
Yeah, we were paycheck to paycheck. All right. So to handle finances, you need to not buy everything you want and save and make a budget. That is the concise version.
Biggest mistake young couples make is they try to start where their parents of 25 years have grown to.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest mistake. You can't start in marriage where your parents have grown to after 25 or 30 years. It's impossible. Unless you just blow up or something. I don't know. Like you blow up online and you get a billion followers, you start getting free YouTube checks or something. I don't know.
What if the guy doesn't take no for an answer? If you have an overbearing dude, I think
if he don't take no for an answer, you come talk to me. If there's a guy who doesn't take no for an answer, please come let me know. Do what? Consent is the best thing, yes.
Do you think right person, wrong timing exists? Y'all those people yelling out in the classroom, I can just picture y'all.
How many think the right person, wrong timing does not exist? Go ahead and raise your hand. There's some that think that doesn't exist. I would like to hear that perspective, though. Why do you think right person, wrong timing doesn't exist? Go ahead. Caitlin's like coming up here. Timing makes them the right person? That's different than there's no such thing as the right, because you're actually defining right person, wrong time. Wait, go ahead, Hassan. Okay, here and then back there. Right now is the right time to praise the Lord. So, because I've seen people who got together, split, and then got back together, and it ended up really, really going well.
Jamie and Jamie, that happened to them?
Jamie and Jamie Pigeon. So would that be an example? What would that be? Is that not right person, wrong timing? That's right person, wrong time, right? They were together, they split, and then ended up back together and got married, happily ever after.
Yeah.
It is the same person.
Same person.
Now y'all are all in your layers. He became a new person, and now he is the right person. Okay, I get your argument. I understand the logic, but I think we're not trying to be that deep. I think we're trying to say, boy one, can boy one be my husband later if boy one is not ready to be my husband today? And the answer I would say is yes. She said, but don't wait on that, man. We don't wait on him to become. We become.
I know
Michelle
a couple.
Obama, we're becoming.
I know a couple that they were together, and then they were not for 10 years.
Oh.
And now they got married, and they have a beautiful
marriage. But he was
marriage.
the wrong one, and then he became the right one. All right, I feel the logic of that. I'm with you. Okay, we can just let that lie.
We'll talk about it, Caitlin.
Caitlin's hopping out her seat. Good. I'm good.
Is it okay to dream before engagement and
we are
make
wrapping
plans?
up.
Like if you're not engaged yet, can you dream and make plans and be like, the wedding's going to be like this, and this is where we want to live, and okay,
y'all are awesome. No.
I think
no.
If
Don't dream
you
about that.
are newly dating, I'm not sure. I got the feel that it was not together. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to just be all up in your head in your dreams. And you're going to get disappointed, likely. But if you're in a committed relationship and you're not officially engaged, but you know, and it's, you're going to have a long engagement, or you're going to, you just know it's going to happen, then, yeah, I think you can make plans. This could just be wise. I went on a road trip, and I was listening to Tony Evans, and he has a really good message about covenant. Just want to throw that out if y'all want to listen to that. I think that marriage is based on covenant, and once you commit and you enter covenant with someone, that is your person, and God is going to be there to make it work through all the difficulties, and it is going to be so rewarding and so worth it.
I'll say this. When Maribeth and I started dating, we were both just head over heels for each other. And
yes, I was.
And but I would say within a year, we began to show like our own, like brokennesses and our own insufficiencies. And there's a point there where reality starts, hitting you. And that's the last point from last week. There needs to be a season of disclosure. And I think there's something that happens when the infatuation kind of bubbles down. You actually make a choice to love. Okay? You make a choice to love. And you make a decision, am I going to love this person? Because am I going to love them is not, am I always going to feel like loving them? Am I going to love them is, am I going to commit to them with my whole heart and be exclusive with them? Am I going to give them myself? Can I build with this person? And so my point is this. You feel the winds of romance and love and infatuation, and then those winds will stop blowing, and there's a point where love is the choice. Do I choose this? And I would just say this to you. People don't stay married because they feel like it. They stay married because they said they would. It's called vows. And when we make vows, we keep vows. That's what keeps marriages together. I heard there's a bunch of science coming out right now about marital problems.
You said science?
Science, like data on marital conflict. This is a wild stat. They're saying 60% of marital conflict is not reconcilable. And the idea is that you have to just get to a place where you understand why they think it's blue and you think it's brown. Like that old internet dress thing. And there's 60% of the time, they're going to think it's blue, you're going to think it's brown, and there is no common ground there. The common ground is, I understand you. I understand that you see it's blue, and I'm okay with that. And I choose to love you. I choose to love you and your blue dress seeing self. I'm good with it. I think I want to take the gas out of the fantasy bubble, because there's so much fantasy as it relates to relationships and love. It's euphoric. That feeling of infatuation and that sense of love is euphoric. And it will make you act silly and stupid. It will make you act crazy. But at the end of the day, love is a choice. You stay married because you said you would. Vows are what keeps you in covenant, and it's the same with the Lord. You are born again because of your word. If you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you're saved. If you make a vow to another person to be their lawfully wedded spouse, for rich or for poor, in sickness and health, till death do you part. If you vow and you believe that it's for good, you're married. And what God joins together, let no man put asunder. This thing is far more about a volitional choice of your will and an agreement to love than it is about being swept off your feet and it's Cinderella and Prince Charming. Okay? Guys, we love you. You guys are the best. We love talking to y'all about this. We'll hang out and talk. If you guys, if there's burning questions, we'll talk now. And probably we'll throw some stuff in the Discord. We'll throw these answers and others in the Discord. Okay. Love you, friends. See ya.